What up, guys? It's February 15, and let's go over my take on Corsair Gaming. We're going to talk about the stock earnings from last week. We're also going to talk about some recent news that have hit the stock to the upside, very exciting stuff, and sort of the future outlook for the stock and what we expect, why we hold it, okay? Now, before we do, of course, please hit that like button, hit subscribe. I appreciate your support. Hopefully, you learned something from these videos, and we have some fun in the meantime, okay? So let's get to it. So for those of you that don't know, and as a refresher for those that do, Corsair Gaming is a PC peripheral, PC component type of business. You're going to have anything that you have in a PC. If you think about a PC computer tower, anything that's not the graphics card or the CPU chip, Corsair builds a part for it. Okay, we're talking cables, we're talking fans, that be electric fans or magnetic fans, CPU cooling, radiators, these lights here, these RGB lights. You also have streaming gear that's brought by the Elgato brand. These are, cameras, audio, capture devices, streaming decks, which are huge in the creator segment. We also have the Origin side of the business, which is, this is your PC builder side. Scuff Gaming, which is very, very exciting. You have these PlayStation, Xbox controllers, which have these highly customizable paddles here and highly customizable features and looks, so you can buy these. These are direct to consumer. They carry a high margin, very good products, very high-end products that are very durable and look amazing. We also move on to here the GamerSay. Okay, GamerSay is for guys like me, maybe not guys like me, maybe gamers who want to be streamers or to want to get better at a certain game. You have here some sort of kind of coaching platform for these guys. You can log in, you can sign up for their services. Here you can choose their game, the experience, choose your tier level, maybe beginner, advanced, intermediate, whatever it may be, and then pay for those services. Just another way to make money for Corsair and be part of this whole sort of streaming and esports crowd, which is very important for the future. Now let's move on and talk about the good stuff here. We got the stock here on Yahoo Finance, and we see here 23.58 is what it's trading at the moment. Huge move after hours, almost 10% move after hours. We're going to go over why that is, okay? Now, we're looking at the valuation of the company. We're going to go to the statistics tab on Yahoo Finance. This is pretty much a $2 billion business here. Market cap 1.95. PE ratio of 20. Forward PE of 13, almost 14. Dirt cheap on a forward PE basis. This is what you want to see. You want to see the forward PE under the current PE, signifying that the market expects a certain amount of growth from this company. Price to sales at 1, pretty much. Dirt cheap on the stock, guys. Valuation, very, very nice, very compelling. Now, in regards to the stock, here's a 1-year chart of Corsair. We see here that's been pretty much in a downfall since February, and this is because of your inflationary pressures, interest rate scares. It's been pretty much decimated with the rest of the Russell 2000 stocks, small cap stocks. But today we had that move, and we'll talk about that move here. We have Corsair Gaming about to join the S&P Small Cap 600 Index. This is huge. This is happening on February 18th. They're replacing First Midwest Bancorp, which is being acquired by Old National Bancorp. We don't care about that. All we care about is there's a spot in the S&P 600 Small Cap Index. We're going to be part of that index now, which means that the road or the window is open for more funds to invest in Corsair Gaming, or they're gonna have to be invested in Corsair Gaming, because there's these funds that just have to have some exposure to small cap value stocks. Now some money's gonna flow into the stock on February 18. Very happy about that. Looking forward to some share appreciation after that. Now let's talk numbers, guys. This is the meat and potatoes of Corsair here. EPS 35 cents versus 25 cents expected. That's a solid beat. Nice, profitable company. Okay, now we have revenues of 510 million versus 496 expected. That's a decent beat there on the revenue side. Guidance was in line mostly. We have here fiscal year 2022 guidance at 1.9 to 2.1 billion. The high end of the street's expectation was 2.0, $2 billion. They came in at a guide of 2.1. That's a mini beat by 0.1. Great, but it's still higher than expected, which is good. Okay, adjusted operating income and EBITDA fallen in line with the street's expectations. So this is nothing new here, nothing that should hit us by surprise. Pretty much good overall. I want to bring a little bit of attention to their actual slides from their earnings presentation that happened last week here, and I want to go over essentially a couple highlights here that I think are very important to think about moving forward for Corsair. And we'll start with DDR5 memory, which is backed by Intel and AMD. DDR5 memory is now the new standard, or will be pretty soon the new standard in RAM. DDR5 is the RAM slots right here. This is the RAM, or also right here, that's your RAM. And what these guys do is they put little lights for RGB and IQ integration. Very nice product, okay? And this is the latest and greatest, and they sell it right now. You can walk into a Best Buy and buy some DDR5 RAM. Great for your computer. One comment that they've made during the conference call is that everything they've created, everything they've made of DDR5 has sold. Essentially, these are sold out at the moment. If you can find some, good for you. But everything they've made has gone out the door, which is what we want to hear as shareholders. Now we're moving on here to the Corsair Collection. So this is pretty important here because this Corsair Collections category carries a high margin for Corsair because these products are direct to consumer. These are not sold on Amazon, at Best Buy, at your local electronics store. These are direct to consumer, meaning you can only order them on the Corsair website or their social media sites. So you see keyboards like this, what's called a Flavor Rush keyboard. It's called, or also referred to as a 60% keyboard because they're small, but they sell you a keyboard that is small, tiny, cute, with different color keys. You could essentially turn this keyboard into a watermelon when you buy the red keys. And I've seen different combinations of like strawberry milkshake and, you know, little cute combinations and little things, because now customizing your keyboards has become a thing for computer builders and even for normal folks that just want a different keyboard, a cool sort of fresh keyboard to work on at home or in the office. Now the second part here is, of course, your PlayStation 5 controllers from Scuff Gaming. And in the conference call they mentioned, hey, these, as soon as we released them, these sold out. Essentially, they sold out completely. So the demand for these controllers is extremely high. Again, very high-end controllers, pricey, yes, but high-end, reserved essentially for the most hardcore gamers or those that are in competitions, esports specifically. So great news there from Scuff on the front of the controllers. Now moving on, I want to move on to the revenue data by segment slide, which I think is very important to kind of realize what's going on with the business. So I want to look here at this side of the slide, which shows the full year revenue by segment. So the yellow, of course, gaming components and systems, the gray being gamer and creator peripherals. So we focus on the yellow here. We see that it's steadily growing, 45% from 2019 to 2020, 8% only from 2020 to 2021. This is when the supply chain issues, GPU shortages start to take effect. So of course, this is going to be affected, okay? But we're talking about gamer and creator peripherals. These are less dependent on GPUs, so you see a higher growth rate year over year. So we're still excited that they're essentially spread out enough, diversified enough to keep revenue segments growing depending on what they need for the moment to grow, okay? If that makes any sense. And I'll bring you guys here to this slide. I want to point your attention to the segment gross margin. Same story here, guys. 2019, here's your margins, and they escalate to 2020 when you don't have these semiconductor issues, these GPU shortages. And then from 2020 to 2021, they're essentially the same, if not less. So again, GPU shortages, supply issues, cost of shipping, taking a toll on these margins. The street doesn't like to see this, but the street has already priced this in to the stock. If we go back to the chart, you see how devastated it was on a 1-year metric. I really believe that this is already priced in and the worst is behind the stock. So as these issues start to alleviate, we're going to see these margins go right back up and the stock price should go right back up with it. No, the last slide I want to go over is the guidance for fiscal year 2022. We already kind of talked about that. But I think what's important, what's being missed here, is that they've also put out a long-term revenue guide. And they're telling us that by 2026, they're expecting $3.5 billion in revenue, okay? And then here we're saying 0 to 10% growth in 2022. But to reach that 3.5, already down here, $3.5 billion by 2026, you need about a 15% growth rate to get you there. So I think this number is low, and as these supply issues alleviate, it'll be easier to actually get to that $3.5 billion number by 2026, which means the stock price is going to be significantly higher, at least 3 times higher than what it is today. So very excited about that on a long-term basis. Now, last part here of the video, I want to talk about the highlights of the conference call because I think that's very important, okay? So we're talking about Q4 revenues. They were in the top end of guidance. This is a guide that was already reduced to account for these supply issues and semiconductor shortages, GPU shortages, okay? But they did the top end of the guidance. That means strong execution. Very positive, okay? Gross profit, a record $513 million for fiscal year 2021. Don't pay attention to this. That's just a typo, okay? So we got supply chains. Of course, we talked about that. They continue to challenge the business. GPU shortages cause PC builders to hold off in favor of cheaper and less reliable products, or just to not build their PCs at all because these GPUs are costing an extra grand. Not okay for builders, okay? Now, shipping costs also 4 to 10 times higher than 2019 pre-pandemic levels. That's not a good thing. That's definitely a huge drag on the stock, okay? But we still see that market segments are all still growing and not expected to slow down. So I put here stay-at-home only stock, or the premise that the stock is only a stay-at-home stock is false. And if you hear this on the conference call and on their latest investor day presentation here in February, in early February, you're going to know that this is true. The CEO is telling you, guys, we do not see a slowdown or a significant slowdown because people are no longer working from home, or their work from home trend is over. This is not happening. We are not seeing this. I could see this of a stock like Logitech that doesn't have that much exposure to gaming and is more of a kind of office peripheral, basic mouse, basic keyboard type of play rather than a gaming play. I could see that more from a Logitech than a Corsair perspective, okay? Also, number 1 market share in almost every PC building category and top 3 in almost every peripheral category. This is also talking about headsets. Headsets are their best sellers, and they make a killing selling headsets, okay? Now, we also have 141 new products launched in 2021. That's just the pace of innovation. You got to keep up with it. 30 product lines, 141 new products in 2021. Can't wait to see what 2022 has in store, okay? The Corsair Collections, we talked about those. Very successful, very high demand for those products, which are direct to consumer. Those keep the profits in-house. That's what we want to see, okay? So consumer demand, like we talked about, is as close to all-time highs of 2020 work-from-home levels. We talked about that. That is false. Like we talked about here, that this is gonna, or their levels or their demand is gonna go down because people are no longer working from home. I still think they are to a lot of extent, but a lot of people have returned to the office. But again, gaming segment, not your office segment, is what we're looking for. Okay. Now we have long-term revenue guide, 3.5 billion. We talked about that. That implies 15%. What is he? This is compounded annual growth rate, okay? And then the Q4 factory issues and port shutdowns in Vietnam forced them to shift to higher Chinese production, which carries higher tariffs, and that hurts the bottom line at the end of the day, okay? So, in conclusion, this is pretty simple. If you're a holder of Corsair stock, you are betting on the alleviation of supply chains and GPU shortages. That's it. That's the bottom line. Regarding competition, I don't really consider Corsair to be this highly competitive business in the office space or in the regular kind of consumer for regular cameras for people that just do Zoom meetings all day. This is a gaming play. So I think that when it comes to gamers, this is a brand that carries more weight, more credibility, better high-end products that will last you a long time. And that's where we stay shareholders. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about the stock. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, here on YouTube. Be happy to help you. Peace out.